Hi security learners, welcome back to CyberWithJoshi, and in this video we're gonna cover the section 1 specifically, which is describing the concepts of security, compliance and identity. In the earlier two videos we have covered about what is SC-900 and why are we learning this and who all is eligible to learn this. And in the second video we'll discuss about the sections, how many sections are there. So it has 4 sections, and today in this one video we are heading deeply in specifically section 1. So yeah, let's get deep down in section 1, and which is describing the concepts of security, compliance and identity. So let me give you a quick overview about what is section 1. So security, compliance and identity concepts cover about 10 to 15% of SC-900 exam. Now this is where we start with the basics. Let's say you work at a hospital, so you should make sure that only doctor can see the patient reports, not the nurses. All right, so nurses is going to be access denied and only doctors can see the patient reports. That's what security is. Now you want to follow the privacy laws like HIPAA. That's what compliance is, and you want to be sure that person logging in is actually Dr. Smith. That's what identity is. If the Dr. Smith is logging from home to see the patient's reports, so it should be must him, not someone else. That's what identity is. Now in this section we're going to explore about what is security in a cloud environment, and why does compliance matter, and how does identity play a role in protecting almost everything. So even if you're a complete beginner, do not worry about that. We're going to use real life examples like logging into your phone with the fingerprint, or using a pen in your phone to logging in, to make things easier and relatable for you to understand. So this section 1, so we had 4 sections in SC-900, and this section 1 has 2 parts in it. The first part A is about defining the security and compliance concepts, and part B is about the identity concepts. So these are the main 3 pillars in SC-900: security, compliance and identity. And the first section was about defining these three, and its part is divided into two. First is the security and compliance, and the part B is identity. Let's discuss what we are going to see in this part A. So we're gonna learn about what is a shared responsibility model, defense in depth, zero trust model, encryption and hashing, and GRC concepts. In the part B, in the identity concepts, we are going to define identity as the perimeter security primary, as a primary security perimeter, and what is authorization, authentication and identity providers, and describing the concepts of directory services and active directory, and describing the concept of federation. So let's dig deeper in the part A. We're gonna cover overview of these 5 topics, and in further videos we're gonna dive in deep about these topics. Now let's cover part A from an overview, that what is it all about, what is security and compliance is all about. So the first topic is shared responsibility model. So when working in the cloud, security is not just handled by Microsoft. It is a shared between Microsoft and the customer. So think of it like renting an apartment, all right? So the building owner take cares of the structure, elevator, and the electricity. But you gonna lock your own door, maintain your room and keep your valuables safe. That's what your responsibility is. So same way in Azure, Microsoft secures the hardware, data centers, networking, but you secure your own data like user accounts, applications and configurations. And what I meant by networking is the behind networking, to give you the platform to work on. We the customer also handles the networking part as well in the cloud. Now, this is a shared responsibility model. You are responsible for securing whatever you bring onto the cloud. All right. So this is clear to you, and let's head on to the second topic, which is defense in depth. So there are different layers of defensing in depth. So first, what I mean by this is Microsoft uses multiple layers of security. So let's take an example of airport security. So they don't just rely on one checkpoint. So you have to go from ticket check, luggage scan, body check, boarding, pass scan. So even if one layer fails off, the others are there to catch you if you are a bad actor. All right. So in the cloud security, these layers could be firewalls, NSG, multi-factor authentication, access controls, encryption, threat detection systems. So multiple layers means better protection, and we are not going to rely on just one. Let's let's cover the third topic, which is zero trust model. Now, as you can see from the title itself, this models follow a simple rule that never trust and always verify. So in traditional systems, if someone is inside your network, so they are trusted. But in the cloud, people connect from home, airports, and cafes. So trust cannot depend on the location. So think of like this as a secure bank. So even if you are an employee, this still you still use your ID card, your fingerprint, and enter your PIN. And zero trust means every time the user must prove who they are, every device must be checked which device they are using to log in, every access request must be evaluated in real time. So Microsoft uses conditional access, MFA, and identity risk evaluation to support this zero trust model. All right, let's dive into the fourth topic of part A, section A, which is encryption and hashing. So both encryption and hashing are used to protect data, but they are different. So encryption scrambles the data, can be reversed using a key. This is important line. It can be reversed using a key and used when data is stored or sent. So it's like locking a message in a box and only someone with key can open it. Now hashing it's like creates a unique fingerprint of your data and cannot be reversed and used to check if data has been tampered or with both the techniques like changed or tempered, and which is critical for protecting the cloud data and verifying integrity. Now let's dive into the fifth topic of part A, which is governance, risk, and compliance, GRC. Now governance is all about not all about governance is about setting rules and policies, and risk is about identifying potential issues or weaknesses. Now, compliance is about following regulations and standards. Now, understand this like if you are running a school. So, governance is the school rules, risk is what could go wrong, cheating or electricity failure or poor attendance rate, and compliance is making sure you follow the education board standards. So in Azure, you use tools like Microsoft Purview, Microsoft Defender to define policies and reduce risk and prove compliance with standards like GDPR, HIPAA. Now, this was all about part one. This was all about part one. Let's head on to part two and of section one. I hope you are having this mind map in your mind, which is very important for structurizing the course in your mind, and you are not going to forget that. You are not going to be confused with the security buzzwords. And so make sure you remember this mind map, and I'm also going to share you this mind map as well. So you might find this link in the description somewhere. So let's head on with part two of section A, which is about identity concepts. Oh, okay. So I just minimized my window. Yep, we are back. So let's head on with identity concepts. What is identity concepts and its subparts points? Now, identity as the perimeter as the primary security perimeter. What does I mean by this? So in the past, security was all about firewall, right? So now in the cloud, identity has become the new perimeter. What does this means? So this means access is based on who the user is, not where they are. Doesn't matter if the user is inside your office or just next to the CEO, but they should always verify that who the user is. So whether someone is working from home or from a public Wi-Fi, what matter is can they prove their identity? Is the device they're using is secure? And do they have correct permissions to even access the environment? So which is what a strong identity system is the first line of defense. This is considered as the primary line of defense. Now let's heading on what is authentication. So what does authentication means? You can have a look over with this image as well. So authentication means proving your identity. Examples of authentication method includes like passwords or OTPs or biometric like fingerprint or face scan or certificates. Now, when you log in into your email with a password and an OTP, that's what authentication is. It confirms who really you are. All right, Dr. Smith or Dr. Strange, let's head on to authentic authorization. What is authorization? So after authentication, post authentication comes authorization. This means deciding what you are allowed to do once you are logged in. So two users might be logged in into the same system and only one can view the files and another can delete them. That's the difference between authorization and authentication. And in Azure, authorization is managed using the role-based access control. For example, if I give you a real life example to relate, so this one was with the view only and delete permissions, but usually we logs in our Netflix account into two phones, but we cannot watch concurrently. So that's where we have the permissions that this user can log in two devices, but cannot is not authorized to watch concurrently in two devices. Let's head over to the fourth topic of part two, section one, which is identity providers. So an identity provider is a service that checks and confirms user identity. So Microsoft Entra ID is the same, and it was formerly known as Azure ID, and it is the main identity provider for Azure. And others also include like Google, Okta, and Facebook for social logins, as you can see here as well. So these system issue access tokens after confirming who you are, and that token lets you access the apps and services. Now let's head on to the fifth topic of part B, section 1, directory services and active directory. So our directory services is like a digital phone book for your organization. It stores the user accounts, groups, policies, and access rules. So Microsoft offers Active Directory, which is for on-premises. What does this on-premises means? On-premises means you are having your own server in your office with all the networking and all. That means it is your own locally hosted, which means on-premises. And Microsoft Entra ID is cloud-based. So these two directory services which Microsoft is offering, and these services help companies manage users, control access, and apply policies. Suppose that if you are applying policies to hundreds of users, so you are not going to go one by one, you are going to do it within one go. That's what policies does and groups does. Yep. Let's head over to the sixth topic of part B, section 1, which is federation. What does federation means? So federation means user can log in into apps from another system without creating a new account. Now, let's say you work at a company A, but needs access to a portal hosted by company B. So federation allows you to use your company A login credentials, which is this one, and this reduce the need for duplicating account to, like, they don't need to duplicate your account in company B, and makes a cross company access secure and seamless. So you can simply use federation and this account will let you use companies B portal, which is federation services. Now Azure supports federation through protocols like SAML, OpenID, Connect, and authorization. So this was federation is all about. Now I hope you must be clear about these two parts of the section 1. Part A included 5 topics, part B included 6 topics. which is these ones, and these two parts are came from section 1, which is security, compliance, and identity concepts. Again, it's just an overview and describing this section 1, which has been done. Now, in the next video onwards, we're gonna dive into identity specifically. Then, in the next one, we're gonna dive into security specifically, and in the next one, we're gonna dive into compliance. So, we're gonna learn about these overviews, and then from in the further videos, we are going to dive in these topics specifically, that how these works and a much deeper detail on that. So yep, let's see you in the next video discussing about the section 2 and learning more in simply and relatable way with real life examples. This is Cyber with Joshi. Make sure to subscribe the channel and like the video and share it with your friend who is just starting up on Azure or cloud security. Yep, bye bye.